The unthinkable has happened. Keir Starmer, once seen as Labour's great hope, has suffered a devastating political collapse. Behind closed doors, sources say Starmer broke down in tears, overwhelmed by party chaos, defections, and collapsing public support. What triggered this political earthquake? A shocking upset in the Runcorn and Helsby by-election where Nigel Farage's Reform UK snatched a Labour stronghold by just 25 votes, the closest margin in British by-election history. But this narrow win sent a thunderous message. The public is fed up with the two-party system. Reform UK's rise is no longer a fringe movement. It's a serious threat. In the days that followed, Labour began to bleed support. Disillusioned MPs defected to Reform UK, condemning Starmer's leadership and accusing the party of abandoning its working-class roots. Now Labour is in crisis. Reform UK is gaining ground and British politics may be facing a reckoning that could upend everything we thought we knew. The question is no longer if, but what's next. This uprising didn't come from nowhere. Labour's recent policy choices have deeply angered its traditional working-class base. Amid a punishing cost of living crisis, the party slashed winter fuel payments and disability benefits while MPs continue to enjoy inflated salaries. Pensioners are left freezing and disabled citizens are told to tighten their belts. Meanwhile, Starmer talks about grown-up politics. Is it any wonder the party is in open revolt? Quietly unhappy. Defecting. Several have now joined Nigel Farage's Reform UK, calling it the only party that listens to ordinary people instead of lobbyists, donors, or think tank elites. According to insiders, Starmer broke down in tears after the shocking Runcorn loss. Not because of one defeat, but because he knew it was a sign of what's coming. This wasn't a fluke. Reform UK is rising fast in Labour's heartlands. And the polls, they're confirming what Starmer fears most. The collapse has already begun. Keir Starmer has been forced into a political corner. After a wave of defections and internal rebellion, Labour MPs gave him a stark choice. Is now impossible to ignore. The Conservative Party isn't faring much better. After losing 13 councils and over 600 local seats, Cami Baden is struggling to hold a sinking ship together. But now she faces a new threat. The unstoppable rise of Reform UK. The political establishment is unravelling. Westminster is in turmoil. The BBC and mainstream media scramble to contain the shock. For the first time in a generation, a political revolution is forming, not from excitement, but from public exhaustion. Britain is broken. Inflation is crushing families. Wages are stagnating. Trust is gone. The system is collapsing. And voters are ready to tear it down. Across the UK, people are working longer hours for less pay. NHS waiting lists are at historic highs. Crime is on the rise and home ownership is a fading dream. Yet, from Labour to the Conservatives, voters hear the same tired slogans and empty promises. The political elite seem more out of touch than ever. Enter Nigel Farage. He's not polished, not scripted, but he's real. And that authenticity is resonating. Farage is saying what millions are thinking. And that's why Reform UK is no longer a fringe movement. It's a political force. Poll after poll shows crumbling trust in the traditional parties. Reform UK is gaining support from across the spectrum. Disillusioned Labour voters, frustrated Tories, and ordinary people in the middle who've had enough of being ignored. Keir Starmer's strategy to be everything to everyone has left him with no real base. Even his own MPs are abandoning ship. Britain is at a breaking point. With a general election looming, the nation stands not just on the edge of political change, but potentially a historic transformation. This upcoming general election isn't a carefully calculated political strategy. It's a last resort triggered by collapse. Keir Starmer didn't choose this moment. It was forced upon him by rebellion inside his own party, public fury and the meteoric rise of Reform UK. A historic by-election loss shattered confidence. Defections followed. Polls tanked. And with no authority left to cling to, Starmer had no choice but to call an election. This isn't just a Labour crisis. It's a system-wide reckoning. Reform UK is no longer just a fringe party or a protest vote. It's a national movement cutting across party lines, fueled by disillusionment and desperation. Working class communities betrayed by both Labour and the Tories are rallying behind. A force that speaks plainly, however controversially. Starmer's fall isn't just political, it's personal. He promised grown-up politics and delivered hollow gestures. Now even his own MPs are jumping ship, and Labour's troubles continue to mount. Lucy Powell's recent controversial comments on grooming gangs have sparked national outrage, further damaging the party's credibility. Britain isn't just voting. It's reveling against failure, false promises, and a political class that no longer listens. Health Secretary Westing Powell faced backlash after her appearance on BBC Radio 4's Any Questions on Friday, where she made a controversial comment during a discussion about a Channel 4 documentary on grooming gangs. Tim Montgomery, a panelist, referenced the documentary, which Powell responded dismissively, saying, "Oh, we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we?" Her remark was widely condemned for trivializing child exploitation and diminishing the victim's experiences for political effect. Critics accused her of downplaying the issue, and the backlash grew quickly. In response, Powell issued an apology on social media, claiming that she had failed to communicate her point clearly. She emphasized that she takes child exploitation and grooming very seriously and clarified that her criticism was aimed at political point scoring, not the issue itself. The incident has raised concerns about how sensitive issues are handled in political discourse. Health Secretary Westing Powell faced significant backlash after a controversial comment on BBC Radio 4's Any Questions, where she dismissed a Channel 4 documentary about grooming gangs. Tim Montgomery referenced the documentary detailing the experiences of women abused by gangs, and Powell responded with, "Oh, we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we?" Her remark was widely condemned for trivializing child exploitation and undermining the victim's experiences. In response, Powell issued an apology emphasizing her commitment to addressing child grooming seriously and clarifying that her criticism was aimed at political point scoring, not the issue itself. She also noted that she had personally dealt with horrifying cases in her constituency and praised the government's efforts to bring perpetrators to justice. On Sunday, Health Secretary Westing described Powell as mortified and assured viewers she never intended to diminish the victim's trauma. He called for de-escalating political tensions to focus on real solutions. When asked about Labour's stance, String firmly denied any suggestion that Powell's comments were a veiled racist tactic. Despite Powell's apology, questions remain about whether the public will forgive her, particularly as Reform UK gains ground. On the Any Questions programme, Lucy Powell's remarks were described as ill-judged and reflective of a troubling pattern. Tim Montgomery argued that discussions on grooming gangs are often shut down with accusations of racism, stifling public debate. He suggested Powell's comments targeted Reform UK and himself, but had wider damaging implications. Montgomery warned that Powell could face serious backlash if survivors spoke out in large numbers. Conservative Party co-chairman Nigel Huddleston echoed the criticism in an interview with Sky News, calling Powell's comments completely inappropriate and part of a series of silly and dismissive remarks. He accused her of trivializing a serious issue and claimed Labour had underestimated public anger over grooming gangs and political inaction. Huddleston also accused Labour of reneging on previous pledges to investigate grooming allegations and demanded the party be held accountable. He further called for a full statutory inquiry into grooming gangs, intensifying the pressure on Labour to address the issue more seriously. The controversy surrounding Lucy Powell's comments has become a full-blown political firestorm. Conservative Party co-chairman Nigel Huddleston suggested Labour hesitated to launch a public inquiry into grooming gangs, fearing it could implicate their own councils. He called these allegations an embarrassment Labour should address directly. After Powell's public apology, the debate reignited when Downing Street accused some political figures of weaponizing child sexual exploitation. When asked if Prime Minister Keir Starmer agreed with Powell's controversial framing, his spokesperson expressed disappointment at the politicization of such a serious issue, emphasizing the government's focus on securing justice for victims, not political games. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Phelps rejected this narrative, asserting that demanding accountability and pushing for a national inquiry was about justice, not weaponization. He criticized Starmer and Number 10's response as pathetic, stressing that raising the issue was neither a dog whistle nor a far-right tactic, but a morally necessary call for action. In response to the controversy, Conservative Party leader Chris Phelps reiterated the demand for a statutory public inquiry into grooming gangs. Marlon West, father of a grooming survivor, supported Phelps' stance, telling The Telegraph that calls for an inquiry were not political point scoring, but a result of frustration with the state's inaction. He emphasized that many victim families shared this view and do not see the issue as politically motivated. West also criticized the delays in launching a national investigation and highlighted that Dame Louise Casey has yet to release nationwide data on grooming, raising suspicions of stalling. West's daughter, Scarlett, was one of the victims featured in the Channel 4 documentary mentioned by Tim Montgomery during the radio discussion that sparked Powell's controversial response. Powell later apologized for any misunderstanding, reaffirming her commitment to tackling child exploitation and clarifying her position. Health Secretary Westing defended Lucy Powell on Sunday, stating that everyone says regrettable things in heated debates and that Powell was devastated by how her words had been interpreted. Despite mounting pressure, Starmer expressed full confidence in Powell, with his spokesperson reaffirming her support and noting her apology. However, speculation surrounding a potential cabinet reshuffle in June continues. Reports from the Sunday Times suggest that the Department for Culture, Media, and Sport could be dissolved, potentially removing Lisa Nandy from the front bench, and that Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson might also be replaced. While Number 10 refused to confirm or deny reshuffle plans, they reaffirmed their support for Powell. Calls for Powell's resignation persist, with Chris Phelps condemning her outburst as shocking and diminishing the trauma of thousands of victims. He also emphasized that Labour continues to